The field had forgotten everything. Names, footsteps, prayers, all gone. Only the wind remained, moving through the tall grass like an old memory trying to find its way home. The ground was uneven, split by roots and stone, its color dulled by rain and years. At its center stood the cross. It leaned slightly, one arm cracked, the wood splintered and blackened by time. Moss grew along its base, thick and wet, hiding the last traces of carved letters no one alive could read. A nail stuck out near the top, rusted to the color of dried blood. The crow landed there just after dawn. Its wings cut the air with a dry whisper, scattering a small burst of dust from the wood. It perched on the broken arm, claws pressing into the grain, and stilled. For a long moment, nothing moved. The morning was gray, not the soft gray of cloud, but the kind that sinks into the bones of the world. The air was heavy with the smell of rust and wet earth. Somewhere beyond the field, a fence had fallen, and each shift of the wind made it groan softly, like an animal in sleep. The crow tilted its head. Its black eyes caught what little light there was, cold, steady, unreadable. It looked at the field, the horizon, the old stones half buried in grass. Everything it saw was still, emptied of purpose. Beneath the cross, the ground sloped downward into what once had been a path. You could still see its faint line in the way the grass grew differently there, shorter, thinner, as if it remembered being walked upon. The crow followed it with its gaze, tracing where it vanished into the mist. A drop of rain fell, then another. They hit the wood with soft, hollow sounds, like tiny heartbeats. The crow ruffled its feathers once, then settled again, drawing its wings tight against its body. The first light of the morning pressed through the clouds, dim and reluctant. It didn't warm the earth, it only revealed it. Every crack in the wood, every patch of rust on the metal nail, every strand of wet feather on the crow's breast. Somewhere far off, a single bell rang. The sound was distant, old, and broken. It came in pieces, carried unevenly by the wind. The crow turned toward it, head cocked, feathers lifting slightly at its neck. The sound faded quickly, swallowed by mist, leaving only the steady hiss of falling rain. The crow opened its beak once, but made no sound. It stood there, unmoving, black against gray, a shadow upon a relic. The cross beneath it creaked faintly in the damp, and the wind passed through the field, bending the grass as if bowing to something unseen. The rain fell harder. The crow stayed. Its feathers gleamed in the dim light, each drop of water sliding down like oil. Beneath it, the wood darkened to almost black. The cross leaned a little farther, the ground at its base softening into mud. Above the field, the sky thickened, heavy, endless, waiting. The crow looked up once, and the gray world looked back. By noon, the rain had thickened into a curtain. It didn't fall in drops anymore. It poured, straight and cold, as if the sky itself were emptying its memory onto the earth. The field had vanished beneath it. Only the tallest weeds still showed, bending and trembling under the constant weight. The crow remained. Water ran down its feathers in dark lines, tracing its shape until the black looked blue. Its eyes blinked slowly, each movement a flash of pale reflection. The broken cross beneath it was slick and shining, its edges bleeding rust into the soil. The smell was everywhere. Rust, wood, wet moss, and the faint sourness of forgotten things. It was not unpleasant, only deep, like something old being washed clean piece by piece. The crow shifted. It spread its wings slightly, letting the rain touch the skin beneath the feathers. The air was heavy, pressing close, and the sound of water filled everything. The soft hiss on wood, the hollow tap on stone, the whisper of runoff through the grass. Beyond the cross, the field rolled toward the remnants of a wall. Gray stones leaning inward, half consumed by vines. It had once belonged to a church, long gone now. The bell tower was nothing but a stump of rock, blackened by storms, its bell long fallen and buried. The crow hopped down from the cross. Its claws sank into the wet wood, then into mud. The sound it made, a soft squelch, barely there, was swallowed instantly by rain. It tilted its head once, as if listening for something buried under the sound of water. Then it began to walk. The ground was uneven and soft, sinking beneath its weight. Each step left a small, perfect print that filled immediately with water. The crow moved with strange care, deliberate, like something tracing the shape of a vanished path. When it reached the stones, it stopped. They rose from the earth like bones, each one sharp-edged and slick. Between them grew grass that had never known sunlight, thin, colorless, and trembling. The crow leaned forward, pecked once at the stone, then waited, as though expecting an answer. There was none. Only the sound of rain hitting stone, steady and endless. The crow lifted its wings once, shaking off the water. For a heartbeat, it looked larger, a black shape against the gray ruin, wings spread like the shadow of something older than itself. Then it folded them again and settled, feathers pressed tight. The wind shifted. The smell changed with it, sharper now, metallic. The scent of iron filled the air, mingled with the deep sweetness of rain-soaked earth. It was the smell of time, of things rusting quietly, waiting for no one. The crow blinked. It looked toward the horizon where the sky met the land in a blur of white and gray. There, a darker line moved beneath the clouds. A front of storm or smoke, it was impossible to tell. The air began to pulse faintly, a slow vibration that hummed in the wood of the old stones. The crow tilted its head again. Its feathers bristled slightly, not in fear, but in awareness. The world had changed, almost imperceptibly, like a breath held too long. It opened its beak and called. The sound was low and rough, torn apart by the rain before it could echo. Yet even broken it carried. A single raw note that slipped through the gray air and vanished into the distance. When it stopped, the rain seemed quieter, as if the sound had drawn all attention to itself. The crow looked up. The clouds above churned, darker now, their edges streaked with faint light. The storm was deepening, but beneath it the air felt alive, waiting. The crow ruffled its wings again and stayed still, its eyes reflecting the dull glow of the sky. And for the first time that day it seemed that the rain, after so long, falling in silence, was listening back. When the rain stopped, the silence that followed was heavier than the storm. The clouds lingered low, dragging their shadows across the land like tired ghosts. Everything was soaked, the grass, the stones, the wood of the cross, all darkened to the same color, as if the world had been drowned and only just remembered to breathe again. The crow left the stones behind and stepped into the open field. The ground sank beneath its claws, soft and black with water. The air smelled of rust and roots, thick with the sweetness that comes after long rain, the scent of decay, but clean, like the breath of earth turning over. The field stretched wide in every direction. There were no fences now, no paths, just waves of wet grass and the remains of things that once divided the world. Fence posts without wire, fragments of wood, bones of walls. The crow moved through it all, slow and measured, wings half lifted to keep them from brushing the ground. Every few steps it stopped, tilted its head, listened. The world made no sound except the soft drip of water from the grass. Even the air seemed to wait. Far off, the outline of trees stood against the horizon, black and still, their branches bare. A single shaft of sunlight broke through the cloud and struck them, briefly turning their tops to silver before fading again. The crow watched. Something in the movement of light made the air tremble. Not wind, not sound, but something older. The crow ruffled its feathers, uneasy, though it didn't know why. The field felt alive, but not with motion. It breathed in stillness, each blade of grass part of some slow, unseen pulse. A gust of wind came suddenly, sharp and cold. It passed over the field and bent the grass all in one direction, flattening it in a wide circle. The crow braced against it, wings slightly open, eyes narrowed. The gust faded as quickly as it came, leaving a pattern in the grass, not random, but shaped, curved, as if something had once lain there. The crow hopped closer. The shape was faint, wide and shallow, half filled with water. It could have been a pit or a grave, or simply the memory of one. The mud there smelled stronger, iron, clay, old water. The crow pecked at it once, the sound sharp and hollow. Then it looked up. The sky had changed. The clouds were thinning, unraveling in soft strands of gray. Light filtered through in slow waves, shifting over the field, touching patches of water and making them shine. Each reflection looked like a small piece of sky, fallen and forgotten. The crow spread its wings. For the first time since the storm began, it felt the air lift beneath them. A faint, uncertain pull. Weak, but real. It did not fly yet. It only held them open, testing the balance between air and gravity, between what had been lost and what remained. The field moved with the wind again, and for a heartbeat, the shape in the grass seemed to vanish, as if it had only been visible while the earth was still remembering. The crow folded its wings. The silence returned, whole, perfect, endless. The kind of silence that does not wait to be broken. The crow stood still, black against the drowned gold of the grass, and the sky above it, pale and wide, looked heavy enough to fall. The air had begun to dry. The rain's weight lifted, and in its place came a thin, brittle cold that settled over everything it touched. The world seemed stripped of color. The grass now pale silver, the stones washed white, the sky a hollow, endless gray. The crow stood at the edge of what had once been the churchyard. The wall there was little more than rubble, the bell tower only a jagged pillar, its stones leaning like old teeth. Ivy had claimed it long ago, and now the vines hung stiff with frost, their leaves black and curled. Where the bell had once hung, there was only emptiness, a circle of air where sound had once lived. The crow tilted its head. It could sense the hollow above, the shape of a voice long gone, still pressing against the air, like an echo trapped in stone. It opened its wings slowly, feathers dragging through the cold. Drops of water fell from them, shining for an instant before vanishing into the dirt. Then it leapt. The first motion was clumsy, wings heavy, the air untrusting. But the second beat found rhythm, and the third found strength. The crow rose in a spiral, circling the broken tower, its shadow sliding over stone and snow like smoke. Below, the field and the cross shrank. The land, seen from above, looked both vast and small, a patchwork of mud and gray water, stitched together by the dark lines of old fences that no longer divided anything. The crow climbed higher. The wind met it, cold, steady, alive. It pushed against its body, testing it, as though the sky itself needed to remember how to hold weight again. The crow adjusted, folding one wing slightly, turning its body to meet the current. The air caught it, lifted it, and then it was flying. Not fast, not far. Just movement, steady and clean, through a world that had forgotten motion. The wind whistled softly between its feathers, the sound thin and bright against the gray. It circled once above the tower. Below, the hollow of the bell glimmered faintly with melted frost. For a moment, the air around it seemed to vibrate, not sound, not echo, but the memory of one. The crow passed over it again. This time the air trembled deeper. A faint hum rose, low, almost inaudible, as if the space itself were answering. The vibration traveled outward, touching the stones, the vines, the broken wood of the cross. The world seemed to shiver. The crow tilted its wings and climbed higher, into thinner air. Clouds drifted low, close enough to touch. Each one carried a faint blue sheen, heavy with the last of the storm's light. The crow pierced them, and droplets scattered, shining for an instant like sparks. It let out a cry, a single raw note that tore the air open. The sound spread wide across the empty sky, rolled down over the field, touched the broken cross, and vanished into the soil. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then, the wind answered, a long, slow exhale through the hollow of the bell tower, soft as a sigh. The crow banked and circled once more, then glided down, letting the air carry it back toward the ruin. It landed on the rim of the tower, claws scraping stone. The echo of that cry still lingered, faint, warm, alive. The crow's feathers rippled in the wind, its eyes fixed on the horizon, where the clouds were breaking into light. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full, filled with the sound of something remembered, something too big for words, too quiet for time. The air thinned as the crow climbed. Each wing beat pressed against something that wasn't quite air anymore. Too light, too thin, too far removed from Earth. Below, the forest and fields blurred into shapes of gray and silver. The river flashing once through cloud like a wound of light. The sky stretched in every direction, immense and soundless, like a sea that had forgotten what it was meant to hold. The crow rose higher still. It did not fly for food or territory or instinct. The motion itself was enough. The rhythm of wings, the pull of air, the ache in its muscles. Every beat felt like an argument against stillness, against forgetting. But the higher it went, the quieter the world became. Wind no longer whistled between its feathers. The sound of its wings disappeared. Even its heartbeat seemed to fade, swallowed by the vastness around it. The silence here was not absence. It was density, a space so full of nothing that it pressed against the body like weight. The crow's eyes watered. Cold bit at its face. The clouds below had merged into one pale sheet, stretching unbroken toward every horizon. It looked down, but there was no sense of place, only distance. It turned slightly, adjusting its wings. For a moment, the light changed. The sun broke through a tear in the clouds, spilling across its back, turning each feather to silver. The warmth was brief, fragile. It vanished almost immediately. But in that instant, the crow's body cast a long, dark shadow over the white expanse below. A single shape, small but sharp, moving across the face of the world. The sky trembled. It was barely visible. A shift in the brightness, a ripple through the thin clouds, but it was there. The air itself seemed to react, to stretch, to flex around the motion, as though startled by its own capacity for movement. For so long, it had been empty. No wings had cut it, no voice had carried through it. It had forgotten weight, purpose, sound. Now something moved within it again. The crow beat its wings harder. The air answered with a faint, low moan, the sound of wind relearning its voice. It grew louder, stronger, wrapping around the bird in spirals of pressure and resistance. Below, the sheet of cloud began to shift. It opened slowly, revealing the world beneath, broken land, dark water, the curve of the ruined tower catching light. The crow could see it all now, small and distant, like a painting of something remembered rather than seen. The sky itself was changing. Its color deepened from white to blue-gray, then to a pale silver that seemed to pulse faintly with motion. Thin currents of light ran through it. Not lightning, not reflection, but movement made visible. The crow turned in the air. Its wings caught one of the currents and followed it, gliding smoothly without effort. The air carried it forward, upward, as though recognizing it, guiding it. For the first time since the world grew cold, the sky moved with something alive inside it, and for the briefest moment, the earth below, the field, the cross, the tower, seemed to breathe again. The crow let out a single call, sharp and ringing, a note that fell and was caught by the wind, echoing once across the hollow between heaven and soil. Then silence returned, but not the old silence. This one was full. It had memory now. The first sign of the storm was not wind, but stillness. The sky, which had moved so softly before, began to hold its breath. The air thinned to glass, clear, invisible, impossible. The crow's wings caught on nothing. Each movement became heavier, slower, like flying through a dream of water. Below, the world had disappeared. The clouds had sealed shut, a white sea without horizon. The sun was gone, the light diffused into a colorless haze that burned without warmth. The crow flew on. It didn't know why. There was no direction left, no shape to follow. It only knew the rhythm, the beat of wings, the pull of muscle, the line between rising and falling. Instinct, memory, or something older. Then, the light changed. It began without thunder, a pulse, slow and white, that spread across the sky like breath on glass. The air glowed faintly, then dimmed, then glowed again, each flash silent but full of movement. The storm was building. Not the kind of storm that breaks the earth, the kind that builds inside the sky itself. The crow felt it before it saw it, a tremor beneath the air, a hum in the hollow of its bones, lightning without sound, a thousand white veins unraveling in silence. Each flash froze the crow's wings in light, turning it for a heartbeat into a shadow of fire. It cried out, but no sound came. The air had swallowed everything. Even the voice of the wind was gone. The world was made of light and motion only, no echo, no return. The storm's silence was complete. Still the crow climbed. The sky cracked open again, not downward but sideways. Light folding through light, a fissure that led nowhere. The air rippled, and for an instant, the crow was surrounded by itself. 1,000 reflections caught in the storm's white pulse, each one frozen mid-flight. The storm moved through them like thought. The flashes slowed, then stretched, bending the air until distance had no meaning. The crow's wings faltered. It felt the pull of gravity again, soft but real, a reminder from below, from the ground that still remembered. The crow turned, its feathers catching the light one last time. The storm surrounded it, a cathedral of white without sound. It fell. Not fast, slowly, gracefully, through light that flickered like dying breath. The air thickened again as it descended, the silence breaking into faint whispers of wind. The clouds parted beneath it. For a heartbeat, it saw the world again, the field, the broken cross, the river reflecting a sliver of sky. It spread its wings, catching the air. The fall became flight again, weaker, slower, but alive. The storm above closed behind it, the last flash lighting the world below for just an instant. A single crow, gliding through pale light, the sky behind it silent and vast. And though no thunder followed, the earth felt the weight of its return.